If we're talking drivetrains, it's the latest crazy expensive supergroup that's gonna get us bike tech dorks most excited. But in the grand scheme of things, it really is the mid-level stuff that we should be paying the most attention to. After all, there's far more of that out there than this stuff. I'm Mike Levy, and today we're gonna take a close look at SRAM's all-new $545 GX Eagle 12-speed drivetrain. We'll also compare it to the old version to see exactly what has changed, and we'll talk about why this latest GX is a very big deal for SRAM. So what's new about GX? Well, the big thing, literally, is this big cog. 52 teeth, huge. That gives it a 520% range, which is 20% more than their previous offerings that ran from 10 to 50 tooth. This runs from 10 to 52. It's called the GX Eagle Expansion Cassette. Aside from this dinner plate, it's pretty much the same as their previous GX Cassette. That means that it's made using the same full pin construction that uses stainless steel pins that hold these 11 steel cogs together, and then the 12th cog, this big dinner plate, is added to the back of it. I should also add that it fits on the same XT driver that SRAM's current 12-speed cassettes use, so there's no issue there. Okay, more numbers. Let's weigh this guy, find out what it comes in at. The old GX cassette weighed 448 grams with a 50 tooth on the back of it. The new GX Eagle Expansion Cassette comes in at 452 grams, so just a touch heavier as you'd expect with that bigger cog. Pricing remains the same, it's $215. Two more things before we move on to the rear derailleur. The first is that this Eagle Expansion Cassette, it applies to the whole 12-speed range, so you could get a fancy XX1 cassette that goes up to 52 teeth as well. Remember, all this Eagle stuff, you could mix and match it so you could run that XX1 cassette with whatever other Eagle components that you want. Also, the standard cassette, the 10 to 50 tooth Eagle, it's not going anywhere. It's gonna stay in the lineup as well, so you could choose between that or this big boy. Next up, let's take a look at the new GX rear derailleur, and we're gonna compare it to the old version. Now, these two look very similar, but there are a couple important differences. The first difference is that SRAM has increased the chain wrap. That's how much the chain is engaged with the cog. Now, they've done this by moving the position of the upper offset pulley wheel. SRAM says that this improves both shift quality and chain retention. It also gets a nicer, higher end looking finish, and more importantly, a longer parallelogram to handle that 52 tooth big cog. Let's talk about compatibility. What the? Now, we're gonna talk about compatibility next. So the new GX derailleur, it'll work with both 50 tooth and 52 tooth Eagle cassette. So it'll work with the expansion cassettes and the regular 12-speed cassettes. Now this old GX derailleur, it won't. It'll only work with the original 12-speed 10 to 50 tooth cassettes because it doesn't have those changes that the new GX derailleur does. SRAM says that they really don't want you combining this old derailleur with those expansion cassettes, and if you do, it'll result in some pretty subpar shifting. Of course, I tried it, and they're right, it does. It'll shift up there, but it's not so great. It's pretty slow and feels labored. So if you're gonna get the new expansion cassette with that monster 52 tooth cog, you're also gonna get the new GX derailleur. Let's put them on the scale, see how much they weigh. First, the old GX derailleur. 296 grams for the old one. 299 grams for the new GX derailleur. Price remains the same, 125 bucks. Let's talk cranksets. There are now two GX Eagle Dub cranksets to pick from. This one being the aluminum version that's essentially the same as its predecessor, except it has a much nicer finish that sure makes it look like it costs a lot more, but it doesn't. It still costs the same, $135. Weight remains unchanged, 622 grams. There is something all new to talk about though, and that's a GX Eagle Dub crankset in carbon fiber. I don't have a set here, but SRAM says that they're made using the same technology as their other cranksets, and they weigh 555 grams. Retail price, $275. Lastly, we have this little guy, the GX Eagle 12-speed shifter. It's basically the same as the previous version, except it gets the new finish. SRAM calls it Lunar to match the rest of the group, and it has the same aluminum shift paddle and matchmaker compatibility. Now there's also an e-bike single-click version that has that same Lunar finish. The GX Eagle shifter still weighs 122 grams, and it still costs 45 bucks. So you add all those components up for 545 American dollars, and that's the same as the previous GX drivetrain, but this new version, well, it looks a lot nicer, that shiny Lunar finish. It basically weighs the same, it's within a few grams, and you're getting that wider 520% range. It's also worth mentioning that that expansion 10 to 52 tooth cassette, it doesn't have to be all about having the lowest gear possible. You could swap out your chainring so that your easy gear stays consistent, it stays the same as it was before, but you have more top end speed. So what does all this mean for the industry? It was hard to find a bike that didn't have GX on it until very recently. Shimano has debuted a couple groups that have performed very well, and that means that this latest GX group, it's SRAM's stab at taking back some of that market share. Now these two companies, SRAM and Shimano, battling it out also means better gear for us. It means better shifting at a lower price. So will the new GX be enough for SRAM to retake the crown? And how does it compare to the competition? This stuff just arrived and I don't know quite yet, but I'm gonna put it on a bike and I'm gonna ride the shit out of it, and then you guys will get to read a long-term, full-length review and comparison down the road, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let us know in the comments below. 52 teeth, that's huge. Is it enough? Is it too much? Should we go bigger? Tell us what you think.